We will free Palestine.
Within our lifetime.
Within our lifetime.
We will free Palestine.
We will free Palestine.
Within our lifetime.
Within our lifetime.
There is only one solution.
There is only one solution.
Intifada revolution.
Intifada revolution.
There is only one solution.
There is only one solution.
Intifada revolution.
Intifada revolution.
Resistance is justified
Resistance is justified.
when people are occupied.
When people are occupied.
Resistance is justified
Resistance is justified.
when people are occupied.
When people are occupied.
And Palestine is our demand.
Palestine is our demand.
No peace on stolen land.
No peace on stolen land.
Palestine is our demand.
Palestine is our demand.
No peace on stolen land.
No peace on stolen land.
من الميال الميال فلسطين عربية.
فلسطين عربية.
ومن الميال الميال فلسطين عربية.
فلسطين عربية.
ومن الميال الميال فلسطين عربية.
فلسطين عربية.
When Palestine is under attack, what do we do? What do we do?
Stand up like that.
When Palestine is under attack, what do we do? What do we do? From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Zionism has got to go. Hey, hey. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Israel has got to go. From New York to Gaza, globalize the Intifada. From New York to Gaza, globalize the Intifada. Free, free Palestine. Long live Palestine. Free, free Palestine. Long live Palestine.
بالروح بالدم نفديك يا فلسطين. بالروح بالدم نفديك يا فلسطين. Free, free Palestine. Free, free Palestine. From the river to the sea. Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea. Palestine will be free. From New York to Gaza. Globalize the Intifada. From UK to Gaza. Globalize the Intifada. Free, free, free Palestine. Free, free, free Palestine. From the river to the sea. Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea. Palestine will be free. I'm gonna do another chant with you guys. All you have to do is repeat one word after me, okay? This chant is about return. Return, right of return for Palestinians. When I say the chant, all you have to do is repeat back, Raja, okay? This is how it'll go. I'll say, Ana Raja, Raja. Ana Raja, Raja. And you'll keep repeating Raja, okay? Ana Raja, Raja. Ala Akka Wafa. Ala Safadu Yafa. Ana Raja, Raja. Al Aqsa Raja. Ala Gaza Raja. Ana Raja, Raja. Ala Palestine. returning. And with each chant that I said a different place in Palestine. And you all repeated after me that Palestinians will return. I'm taking a lot of breathing. Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
From the river to the sea!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
Palestine will be free!
From the river to the sea!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
Palestine will be free!
من المياه للمياه
من المياه للمياه
فلسطين عربية
فلسطين عربية
من المياه للمياه
المياه للمياه
فلسطين عربية
فلسطين عربية
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Really loud now! Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
And we will free Palestine! Within our lifetime! It is right to rebel! Israel, go to hell! It is right to rebel! Elbit, go to hell! It is right to rebel! Elbit, go to hell! It is right to rebel! Elbit, go to hell! We're gonna say at the top of our lungs, shut Elbit down 10 times. Shut Elbit down! 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 As you all know, tomorrow was supposed to be the trial of 8 activists from Palestine Action, who are known as the Elbit 8, that were facing the Zionist entity's largest arms manufacturer, Elbit Systems. They manufacture the weapons that end up as bullets in the chests of Palestinian children, weapons that bomb Palestinian homes. When you see the videos of people losing their limbs, of their homes being decimated, this is the company that is doing all of that. And because Palestine Action was directly facing them and shutting them down, they were supposed to stand trial on trumped up political charges in the UK for putting their bodies on the line and carrying out direct action protests to disrupt Elbit's operations. However, this trial was postponed till next year. But it is still important for us to stand here to educate people about this trial, which is why we are doing a series of teach-ins today from the 3 organizations that put this together to give you more context about Elbit, about this trial, about this type of repression that doesn't only affect activists in the UK, but is affecting us right here in New York City, as many of you know. And ultimately, the biggest form of this repression and oppression manifests in the form of genocide against the Palestinian people, which we are witnessing time and time again. So we will also talk about that, because every action we have for Palestine from New York City to the UK is centered around that struggle, and this is why we will center it in this space. So I'm gonna pass off the mic to Samadoun Palestine Prisoner Solidarity Network, and specifically Samadoun New York, New Jersey, who are part of that, to talk to you a little bit today about the trial in the UK and about why we are standing here in front of this building and why it's important for us to build the campaign to shut Elbit down and how we can be a part of it from here in New York City.
Thank you. So it's great to see everyone here today, and I'm really honored to be able to tell you very briefly about One of my single favorite organizations in the world, certainly outside Palestine itself, Palestine Action. Palestine Action was founded on July 30th, 2020, with the launch of its Shut Elbit Down campaign, when its members invaded the UK headquarters of Elbit in London, splashing it with red paint to symbolize the Palestinian blood that this company's weapons shed. A similar action followed a week later, on August 6th, and I'm very happy to say that this was the launch that year of Samadoun's Days of Resistance for Palestine, in which many of us in New York City also participated. Of course, everything in the summer of 2020 came at a very odd time, as many of you will remember. Between the pandemic and much of our society shutting down, and an unprecedented uprising against racist police and state violence that began with the black community here in the United States, and an international wave of mobilization against the threat of Israeli annexation in the occupied West Bank. Everything was moving at the time, and Palestine Action, more than many organizations, have persisted in keeping the best of that spirit of 2020 alive. Since then, over the past 2 years, their relentless actions, dozens of them, have succeeded in shutting down 2 of Elbit's sites across Great Britain, both the headquarters in London, which they originally targeted, and a drone factory in Oldham. Yes, can we get a round of applause for that? Not for me, for them. And they're committed to continuing this struggle until they shut Elbit down for good. Shut Elbit down!
Shut Elbit down! Shut Elbit down! Shut Elbit down! Shut Elbit down!
Shut Elbit down! Shut Elbit down!
Shut Elbit down!
Hi everyone, my name is Layla. I'm with Sami Dune. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Elbit 8 case and the Elbit is Guilty campaign. So we heard from Joe about what Palestine Action has been up to since 2020. And Elbit has taken Palestine Action to court many times over their direct action campaigns targeting these factories and headquarters, but none of these attempts have led to significant legal consequences so far. A number of these cases have been significantly delayed, while many activists being charged have walked free after the charges being dropped due to unrealistic prospects of conviction and Elbit's continuous failure to provide adequate evidence to the courts. Just last month, 5 activists all had their charges dropped following action taken in July at Elbit subsidiary UAV Engines, where combat drones parts and engines are manufactured. The latest development in the Elbit is Guilty campaign has been spurred by the Elbit 8 case, in which 8 Palestine Action activists were set to face trial on October 10th for charges of burglary, criminal damage, and blackmail. The 3 activists facing blackmail charges could face up to 14 years imprisonment each. Last week, the activists were informed that their trial has been postponed to next year, November 2023. The Elbit is Guilty campaign is a campaign that encompasses all of Palestine Action's legal battles. This campaign seeks to expose Elbit's violent crimes against the Palestinian people and expose the truth that Elbit is guilty. So basically, it uses this time in the courtroom to expose Elbit as well as to defend their own people. Elbit would like to hold the Palestine Action activists accountable for their active resistance against Elbit, but they are hypocrites. Elbit advertises their products as battle-tested in Gaza, battle-tested on Palestinian people in Gaza. They are proud of the crimes that they have committed. They say that the Palestine Action activists are criminals, but they are the real criminals. I will now read a passage from Comrade George Habash, or Al-Hakim's speech that he delivered at the Jordan International Hotel in Amman in 1970 to hostages following a resistance operation in the face of US-backed Jordanian regime attacks on the Palestinian Revolution. Al-Hakim says, "After 22 years of injustice, inhumanity, living in camps with nobody caring for us, we feel that we have the very full right to protect our revolution. We have all the right to protect our revolution. Our code of morals is our revolution.
What saves our revolution, what helps our revolution, what protects our revolution is very right and very honorable and very noble and very beautiful. Because our revolution means justice, means having back our homes, having back our country, which is a very just and noble aim. Al-Hakim was speaking of the brave Palestinian resistance in Palestine and elsewhere in the Arab world, but we know that in order to win, we must fight back everywhere. Whether it is in Palestine, New York City, London, or anywhere else in the world, we all have a right and a duty to resist the murderous Zionist entity and all institutions that support and benefit from the Zionist entity's genocide of the Palestinian people. Our comrades in Palestine Action have taken this duty very seriously, and we will not let them fight alone. And we will shut Elbit down! 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 Shut Elbit down!
Hey everyone, my name is Hussein and I'm with Samadou, New York, New Jersey. I'm going to talk a little bit about the political economy of Elbit Systems, because that's what undergirds this whole process. Elbit Systems essentially wouldn't exist if it weren't for the constant siege of Gaza, which is punctuated by regular full-scale assaults. In the 2014 war on Gaza, Elbit supplied all manner of missiles, drones, and surveillance technology that were crucial to the offensive. In addition, shortly thereafter in 2015, Elbit was contracted to build a new smart wall around Gaza that included a 130-foot deep underground wall. Both the Bank of New York Mellon and Barclays, whose major offices in the US are right in this building, underwrite these murderous quote-unquote innovations. They assure Elbit continues to profit from the genocide of Palestinians. During the July peak of the 2014 war, Elbit's profits increased by over 6%, a huge increase for a single month. The war on Gaza is not just its main source of income, it's also, as Comrade Julia mentioned, its primary source of marketing. Since this was the first time Elbit's drones were used in a full-scale ground assault, their drones were now marketed as battle-tested, a moniker that is deeply attractive to repressive governments the world over. After the 2014 war, the Swiss government approved a $280 million deal to purchase the battle-tested Hermes 900 drones. Shortly thereafter, the UK Ministry of Defence signed a contract for a joint venture to the tune of $1.6 billion with Elbit Systems and a French company, Thales, to produce drones similar to the Hermes drones. The same drones were then purchased by the Brazilian government for use against the protests during the World Cup. About half of Elbit's revenue comes from these weapons exports. Again in 2021, during the most recent assault on Gaza, Elbit saw a huge revenue boost, this time over 30%, leading to record-breaking sales that year. It's this constant deluge of war that has allowed Elbit Systems to become the largest exporter of drones in the world. The biggest threat to that market dominance and to the company as a whole is Palestine Action in the UK, and that's why we support them. Repressive forces around the world have applauded Elbit Systems for making it easier to quash protests and oppress poor and struggling people. That's why the work of the Elbit 8 is so crucial. They're fighting not just for us, not just for Palestine, but for everyone, the world over, for struggling people to not be subjected to these death machines for the simple crime of wanting to be free. It is right to rebel.
It is right to rebel.
Elbit Systems, go to hell.
Elbit Systems, go to hell.
It is right to rebel.
It is right to rebel.
Elbit Systems, go to hell.
Elbit Systems, go to hell.
Thank you.
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine.
مين الميال الميال؟ فلسطين عربية!
فلسطين عربية.
ومين الميال الميال؟
من الميال الميال.
فلسطين عربية!
فلسطين عربية.
From the river to the sea! here speaking on behalf of the Palestinian youth movement. Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
And we are here, obviously, in support and solidarity of the Elbit 8 Pal Action activists. Anti-imperialism has always been central to the Palestinian struggle for return and liberation. The Palestinian revolutionary Ghassan Kanafani, who was killed by Israel in 1972, said, "Imperialism has laid its body over the world, the head in Eastern Asia, the heart in the Middle East, its arteries reaching Africa and Latin America. Wherever you strike it, you damage it, and you serve the world revolution." When Kanafani said this, he argued that imperialism, which is the highest stage of capitalism, is a global project that dispossesses and exploits countries all over the world. And for us in the US, we have a responsibility to cut off the head of this imperialist snake. We are here today to express our full support for all action that strikes at imperialism, all action that sabotages and damages imperialism, and all action that weakens the bloody operations which imperialism inflicts on people throughout the world. In Palestine, as we all know, American and European imperialism has waged a bloody war against our people. Just in the past 48 hours, the Zionist forces killed 4 Palestinian boys: Adel Dawood, Mahdi al-Adawde, Ahmed Daraghme, and Mahmoud al-Sous. The bullets they use to martyr these Palestinian boys are bullets that are produced with American money, just as the missiles, helicopters, bombs, and rocket launchers that rain terror down on our people in Gaza are produced in the US. For decades now, the US has given the Zionist state billions of dollars in genocidal weaponry that is used to kill men, women, and children, weaponry that is used to suppress our people's heroic resistance all the way from Jenin to Gaza. It is right here, all around us, in our backyards, that Zionism's operations against Palestine is enabled and reproduced. The imperialist backing of the Zionist state is clear everywhere we look, through arms sales to the Zionist state, through endless funds for Zionist colonization, through supplying surveillance technology. US and European imperialism and transnational corporations have been relentless in their support for the Zionist domination over Palestine. The Israeli weapons company Elbit is the largest supplier of weapons to the Zionist state. Can anyone guess what percentage of drones Elbit supplies to the Zionist state? Guess a percentage. 50? 80? A little more. 85%. 85%. So these actions that Pal Action are taking are direct material impacts to this kind of support that's offered to the Zionist entity. Not only does Elbit give weapons for murdering Palestinians, they also give weapons to other reactionary governments, such as the Marcos Duterte government in the Philippines, which takes Israeli weapons to crush the National Democratic Movement and to enforce the US imperialist agenda in Asia. Elbit also sells weapons to India, who uses their products to enforce the violent occupation of Kashmir. Elbit has also received contracts to build the border between the so-called US and Mexico. We must therefore understand that though Elbit is an Israeli company, its imperialist operations would not be possible without its expansion globally. 80% of the company's market is actually located outside of the Zionist entity. The operations of Elbit are therefore an enemy to the people of Palestine and all progressive people throughout the world. This is exactly why we're here today, to be in solidarity with the heroic activists in Britain who for almost 2 years have been mobilizing a militant campaign against Elbit factories across Britain. Pal Action is a network of activists that take on direct action, factory occupations, and other disruptions to shut down the companies fueling Israeli war crimes. In their first year, Pal Action caused 15 million British pounds worth of losses to Elbit sites alone. And they shut down the site for operation for 105 days, preventing the manufacture of arms at the base of production. They successfully, as Sami Doon was talking about, forced the permanent closure of one of the Elbit factories in Britain, and PAL Action is committed to doing what they can to derail Britain's wing of the global military-industrial complex. In their words, PAL Action describes their support for Palestine as concrete and uncompromising or non-existent. Our solidarity should be practiced with the intention of forcing imperialism's hand, rather than appealing to its absent conscience. We do not appeal to the powers that be. We have an enemy that is operating under our feet, and we have the means to take that enemy on. Next year, 8 of the PAL Action activists will be facing trial in Britain, but we know that this trial and every instance of state repression that PAL Action has faced is because of their successful disruption of business as usual for blood-shedding criminal companies like Elbit. This is not just about one company and their financial loss. This is about the weakness that PAL Action has been able to expose in the imperialist aims of companies like Elbit. Ultimately, of countries like Britain and the US. Ultimately, companies like Elbit represent money in the pockets of the international arms industries and capitalist gains for the US and Britain. PAL Action is an example of principled, dedicated, anti-imperialist struggle for Palestine. Not only have their actions directly and materially impacted the Zionist arms industry by forcing site closures, their actions have also awakened community consciousness and organizing around directly resisting violent imperialism. Our people in Palestine, amongst other colonized people of the world, are ultimately the ones directly confronted by the products of these weapons manufacturers. So when a majority of those weapons are created outside of the Zionist state, it would be an understatement to say that at the very least, we must confront the companies and institutions that create them, and we must stand unequivocally in solidarity with the Elbit 8 who embody anti-imperial, anti-Zionist struggle. The only way to stop the bloody flows of imperialism is to directly confront it. Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
من الميال الميال
من الميال الميال
فلسطين عربية
فلسطين عربية
ومن الميال الميال
من الميال الميال
فلسطين عربية
فلسطين عربية
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
From New York to Gaza, globalize the Intifada!
Globalize the Intifada!
From New York to Gaza, globalize the Intifada!
Globalize the Intifada!
There is only one solution!
There is only one solution!
Intifada revolution!
Intifada revolution!
There is only one solution!
There is only one solution!
Intifada revolution!
Intifada revolution!
Intifada, Intifada!
Intifada, Intifada!
Long live the Intifada!
Long live the Intifada!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
It is right to rebel! Elbit, go to hell! It is right to rebel! Elbit, go to hell! It is right to rebel! Elbit, go to hell! It is right to rebel! Elbit, go to hell! Shut Elbit down! Shut Elbit down! Shut Elbit down! Shut Elbit down!
My name is Nardin Kiswani, and I'm with Within Our Lifetime, and we stand with Palestine Action and the Elbit 8. Today in our teaching, we will be covering several topics, including a short summary again of what's happening with Elbit. So if you didn't hear it the first time, hear it now, record it, post this online. This campaign is going to last a while. The trial is set for next year. We don't know if they're going to postpone it again. But we do know that if we allow crackdowns, harassment, and repression like this to manifest against our comrades who are standing up against weapons manufacturers, then we are also inviting that same repression against ourselves. The only thing that we have to fight back against this is international solidarity, is mobilization, and direct actions like these. So stay educated on what's happening, inform your communities, your friends, your workplaces, your academic spaces, and help us build the movement to not only support Palestine Action and the Elbit 8, but all those who are resisting Zionist settler colonialism from within Palestine and from outside of Palestine. So I'm gonna pass it to my comrade from Wool, who's gonna give a little bit of a summary about the trial and what's been going on in Palestine for the past week.
Tomorrow, October 10th, 8 activists from Palestine Action in the United Kingdom, known as the Elbit 8, were set to stand trial on trumped-up political protest charges for putting their bodies on the lines to disrupt and shut down the Zionist entity's largest arms manufacturer, Elbit Systems. While the trial was recently postponed to November 2023, we are out here today to stand in solidarity with Palestinian Action and protest against the financial institutions right here in New York City that are invested in Elbit Systems and that are profiting off of the ongoing genocide of the Palestinian people, including Bank of New York Mellon, whose headquarters are right upstairs in the Metlife building. We are here to say loudly and clearly that from Palestine to the UK to New York City, it is right to resist Zionism and imperialism. As we gather here today, we also join Palestinians across Palestine and around the world in honoring the Palestinian youth who have been martyred this past week. Their names are Ahmed Daragma, 16 years old, Mahmoud Asus, 18 years old, who was shot and killed by occupation forces in Jannat camp on Saturday, October 8th. Adel Ibrahim Dawood, 14 years old, shot in the head and killed near the separation wall in Ghaliya on Friday, October 7th. Mahdi Ladedwa, 17 years old, shot in the chest and killed by Zionist forces near Ramallah on Friday, October 7th. Ala Nasir Ahmed Zaga, 21 years old, shot and killed by Zionist forces during a raid into the village of Dar al-Hitab near Nablus on Wednesday, October 5th. Khalid Al-Dabas, 21 years old, shot and killed by occupation forces who opened fire on the vehicle he was traveling in near Ramallah on Monday, October 3rd. His friend Bassel Besbous, 19 years old, was initially declared dead by the Zionist entity, but the next day it was confirmed by a Palestinian lawyer that he was alive in the hospital. Fayez Khalid Dadoum, 18 years old, shot in the neck and killed by Zionist forces while he was driving a motorbike in Al-Zazira in Al-Quds on Saturday, October 1st. This all comes in the face of increasing Zionist attacks on Al-Aqsa and occupation forces' campaign of assassinations of Palestinian freedom fighters. But as much as they try and squash the resistance from Nablus to Jenin to all of Palestine, they continue to fail. Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
And we will free Palestine!
We will free Palestine!
Within our lifetime!
Within our lifetime!
You heard their names and ages. 16, 18, 14, 17, 21, 18. These are the ages of the Palestinians who are sacrificing their lives, their bodies, to resist Zionism by any means necessary, with whatever they have, from wherever they are. And these companies like Elbit are the ones who are creating the weapons that are being used to slaughter them, to commit ethnic cleansing against Palestinians, to commit genocide against Palestinians. We know that from Palestine to the UK to New York City, it is our right to resist Zionism, racism by any means necessary. And we know all too well about the repression against our comrades in Palestine Action, because it is the same Zionist repression forces that we face here in New York City. Whether it's being targeted by government investigations and city council hearings, having police harass people at our protests, or the constant threat against members of the Palestinian Liberation Movement. We resist this repression, just like our comrades in Palestine Action are resisting, because we know that our task is to stand in solidarity with Palestine, and that people fighting for liberation on the ground in Palestine will defeat the head of imperialism here in the U.S. One of the reasons why we as a movement are facing repression is because we are exposing these private and public institutions that are funneling money to the death-making of the occupation in Palestine, a truth that they want to maintain hidden. Right upstairs in this building is the headquarters of the Bank of New York Mellon. BNY Mellon is an investment bank that holds 54,000 shares of Elbit, worth $12 million. Not only is BNY Mellon in bed with Elbit weapons, it also manages billions of dollars in assets for Israeli companies in occupied Palestine. BNY Mellon has offices in Jaffa, which is in historic Palestine, called the Tel Aviv Innovation Center, where 40 engineers work. It is also deeply invested in the growth of the Israeli financial technology market. So we are also here today to not only condemn Elbit, but BNY Mellon and all of the institutions who are investing in Elbit systems and the ongoing genocide and colonization of Palestinian people. BNY Mellon has Palestinian blood on its hands just as much as Elbit does, just as much as the Zionist soldiers who kill the Palestinian children do. And we know that these actions to expose these institutions are successful. In 2019, we participated in the campaign to oust Warren Kanders from the board of the Whitney Museum, where we took over the lobby of the museum. We took over the lobby of the museum to shine light on the fact that Kanders was directly profiting off of the genocide of the Palestinian people through his ownership of Safariland, a weapons manufacturer that produces tear gas and ammunition. Bullets that his company produced are the same bullets that are murdering Palestinians every single day, the same bullets that are being funded by our tax dollars here in the U.S., and the same bullets funded by these investment banks. After 9 weeks of sustained protest, Kanders resigned from his position as a board member of the Whitney Museum. So we know these actions are effective. In 2021, we released a zone of operations map that showed the different institutions that are complicit, if not directly engaging, in the colonization and genocide of the Palestinian people. They are peppered all throughout our city. Organizations like Defund Racism have been working with us and others around the world and the country to expose the Israeli Zionist so-called charities that are raising money to further colonize Palestinian land and to further fund and build settlements. These institutions are all around us in New York City. Institutions like the Friends of the IDF that raises millions of dollars to support a genocidal army that has carpet bombed Gaza again and again. Friends of the IDF? You mean Friends of Genocide supporters? They're not afraid, they're not ashamed to admit that. So it is on us to expose them. And we know that the blowback that the Globalize the Intifada campaign which called for us to target Zionist institutions with protests, with direct action all over the city, shows that we are effective, that the enemy is afraid, that they don't want these secrets to come out, that they don't want their war profiteering and genocide funding to be exposed. But we don't care about what they want. We care about freeing Palestine and about exposing them so that we target those who are killing our people back home. As Palestine Action continues their campaign to shut down Elbit in the face of the state of oppression, we recognize that wherever there is resistance, there will be repression. And that repression, to quote Mumia Abu Jamal, political prisoner, who sent us a solidarity message at our Nakba Day action in 2020, where he said, repression breeds resistance. Here in New York City, the growth of the movement for Palestinian liberation in the streets and the victories for Palestine on campus are growing, and we're taking these victories from the universities to the streets and vice versa. But we know that CUNY students have been facing a repression campaign. I just graduated from CUNY in May, and I gave a commencement speech in which thousands of Zionist institutions, individuals, even politicians tried to stop it from happening. But thanks to the work of law students like in CUNY Law SJP, they were not able to do that. And now it seems like they are waging an even larger campaign to punish CUNY and to punish those building for Palestinian liberation at CUNY because of the fact that we are able to speak freely, unabashedly, about where we stand in the struggle for Palestinian liberation, and because we are building the movement by passing BDS resolutions, by getting faculty to pass BDS resolutions, and by still coming out here and taking over the streets whenever we can. So I'm going to pass it, before I continue, to my comrade in CUNY Law SJP, who's going to talk a little bit about that. Because right now CUNY is facing a very dangerous precedent by threatening to pass the IRA resolution, or basically equating anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism, which threatens to punish all those who are building for Palestine at CUNY. So I'll pass it to my comrade in CUNY Law SJP to talk a little bit more about that.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Fatma. I'm from CUNY Law SJP, and I have several messages today. The first being, and I want New York City to hear me loud and clear, you can punish us, you can stifle us, you can scare us. We will show up each and every single time. Regardless of whether we shut down the streets or make you uncomfortable on the streets, we will be here each and every single time because you cannot kill the resistance. CUNY Law displays itself as a school of social justice, and like many other academic institutions, it praises itself to bring about a generation of activists, a generation of those who will change the world. And to them, this is threatening. To them, this is not the activism they want to see. They want to see us in the capitalistic structures. They want to see us going up those ranks so that one day we can build the drones to hunt down Palestinian bodies, to hunt down Yemeni bodies, to hunt down bodies of brown and black people in this country. What they want to see is they want to see us lock up people in prison. They want to see us arrest people to send them to Rikers. They want to see us criminalize families. They want to send cops to families to separate children. That's what they want to see. So it takes us by no surprise that our institutions continue to fail us, that those in power continue to fail us, that they don't show up today, and they won't show up tomorrow, and they didn't show up last year, and they will never show up. And
And we don't need them to show up. The resistance doesn't need them. Because the resistance has you. And it has every single person who has came out to the streets for Palestine and who will continue to show up to Palestine. And the Chancellor of CUNY said, in response to activism largely led by Nardine, he said that we must make peace. To hell with you. And to hell with your peace. Because on your hands is blood. On your hands is blood, and to every single faculty, to every single professor who just likes to write about resistance and victory and theories and papers to get them published, to hell with you. So organize your campuses. Reach out. If you have a question about how to organize, how to pass a BDS resolution, how to start up an SJP, reach out to WOL, reach out to CUNY Law SJP. We would be more than glad to help you, because the same institutions that are silent are complicit. They have blood on their hands. This is not just a matter of laziness. They are invested in these institutions. They make money off of our blood. They make money off of the blood of the children that are killed in Palestine, off of the men that are killed in Palestine. It is no coincidence. So you showed up today. Show up tomorrow. If you're the only person on your campus, show up. Someone will join you. Do right by the people of Palestine. Don't wait until it has to be images of babies and fathers and mothers blown up, until that has to be trending on Instagram for you to show up. Don't let yourself become so desensitized. That is only with the imagery of blood and gore and violence that you show up. Bring your friends. Bring your families. And this message is to those who aren't Arab, who may not understand Palestine. Educate yourself. Bring others with you. If you're the only person in your family organizing, make sure that that's not the case. We must do better. And we will. And that is why they are scared. That is why they are criminalizing activism. That is why they continue to do it. Because they know that global solidarity will beat imperialism at its core. That as big as their mansions get, and as deadly as their weapons get, that they have not managed to kill the resistance, and they will never manage to kill the resistance because the resistance doesn't need them. So my last message, and this is to CUNY Law, and to the Chancellor specifically, to hell with you.
So in the spirit of repression, the repression that the Palestine Action comrades are facing, the repression that Palestinians face when they organize, and even beyond repression, straight up getting murdered for resisting, to the repression we face here in New York City, we know that repression comes down against Palestinians no matter what way we resist. So for years, CUNY leadership, as Fatima was saying, has facilitated the stifling of Palestine solidarity organizing at CUNY. Students and faculty speaking out about Palestine, especially when we're Palestinian ourselves, or Arab, Muslim, and other students of color, have been harassed, surveilled, and defamed by Zionist organizations, as well as the NYPD and even the FBI. Zionist organizations at CUNY have worked with CUNY administration, who's either remained silent or been complicit in this repression of organizing in solidarity with Palestine. And despite the extensive evidence of anti-Palestinian racism at CUNY, the CUNY Chancellor, New York City politicians, and the CUNY leadership have thrown Palestinian and other students and workers organizing in solidarity with Palestine under the bus. And after we successfully waged a campaign in the University Student Senate to defeat the adoption of the IRA definition of anti-Semitism, which again equates anti-Zionism to anti-Semitism, thereby punishing all those who are anti-Zionist in solidarity with Palestinian liberation, we saw that CUNY admin is now taking steps to adopt IRA from the bottom up, even though the students voted it down, and they are taking steps to strengthen their relationship with Zionist institutions and politicians who are working to shut down Palestine activists on campus, who have worked to get students like me expelled, students like CUNY Law SJP expelled for speaking up about this. That's how much they want to silence us. And the New York City movement for Palestine has been pointing out the institutions complicit in Zionism since the start of the struggle. We applaud our Palestine Action comrades for the steps that they've taken, and while Zionists will try to divide the movement by saying that their tactics are too extreme, meanwhile what we do in the university is quote unquote so-called more respectable, we know that this is them trying to divide us and them trying to make Palestine Action an outlier. And there's nothing extreme about fighting for liberation. What is extreme? What is extreme is colonization and settler colonialism. And so we are justified in response to that by any means necessary. And while we pass resolutions at the university level, that doesn't mean that we don't take over the streets of New York City and shut them down, which is what we plan to do today, which is what we hope you'll join us to do. So this is the last teach-in. I'm going to give a short orientation because we do plan on marching today in the spirit of direct action, in the spirit of Palestine action, and to make this a strong response where not only the people passing down the sidewalks are listening to us, but New York City is forced to be quiet and listen for a second about what's happening in Palestine. So we're going to get all the banners off the floor and we're going to start lining up this way. Anybody with a blue armband like mine, right here, as you can see, is on security. So if folks are asking you to do something, please try to be respectful. We're trying to keep everyone safe. Once the banners are formed, we're going to keep everyone behind the banners, and our strength is in our unity. It is in our resilience. It is in standing together. So we're going to remain united as one block, and we're going to march together. We're going to listen to the security and organizers so that we can keep this a safe, direct action where we do have the number and power to mobilize and take over several spaces.